Lyss. Welcome to week 3 of Lowdown with Lyss. Strap in, buckle up. We have a lot to talk about. I had a lot of free time this week. Again, starting with a new job, the new boss was just like, "Hey, take some time off." So I did. And that resulted in 9 books that we get to talk about. Sorry. Okay, so we'll just dive straight into it. Last week, we ended up the last book talking about Hamnet. This week, starting off with book Uno, is Carl's Doomsday scenario, the second in the Dungeon Crawler Carl series. So it's really fun. My husband Matt and I, we listened to this series together, and so we've been going on a couple road trips recently. So we've listened to it just while driving, basically, and so we finished this one up. This one was super fun. I liked how it didn't like. I like how the books are not one level per book, if that makes sense. But I like that this one's little side quest became like the main thing. I really did enjoy that, and of course, I always love Princess Donut. So, luckily that we're getting a live action series coming soon, and the guy who does the voices for the audiobook is going to end up voicing Princess Donut, so that's pretty fun. Overall, I rated this a 4 stars. I rated this 4 stars, not a 4-star. You know what I mean. Okay, the second book that I finished was the Everybody Wants to Rule the World Except Me. So this was the second in the Dark Lord Davi series. This one, the first book, I rated 5 stars because it was fabulous. Again, it was like Dungeon Crawler Carl, but a female perspective. This one was the second book, the ending to the duology. So this was Davi becoming the Dark Lord, and how does she move through trials and tribulations to like save this kingdom. I think it got a little confusing in pieces of it towards the end when we were trying to wrap everything up. Like the whole ramping up to having Davi become this Dark Lord was phenomenal, and then when she became the Dark Lord, we're like, sweet, now how are we gonna progress? And like things happened that like were really, really cool, but I think the ending kind of fell flat for me, to be honest. I mean, maybe I just didn't read close enough or listen close enough, but I didn't think the ending was as clear cut as it could have been. That it still had a lot of questions, and I think things were like gratuitously done in order to finish up the plot, if that makes sense. So I rated that one as a 4-star as well. Book 3, this is God and the Gwisin. God damn it, I always say this wrong. So this is the second in the Fates Thread series. I think this is also a duology. I don't think she's going to continue. This is by Sophie Kim. Sophie Kim, the first book was The God and the Kumyo, and the Kumyo is part of Korean legend. It's basically like a 9-tailed fox, and so fox spirits are the Kumyos, and in that first one it was like a buddy cop duo, but one of the buddy cops was the Kumyo, and so it was like they were trying to catch her, but little did they know it was her, and like she was like leading them on false trails and stuff. Anyway, she finds out that she really likes like her buddy cop, and her buddy cop is like a god in and of himself as well. He's like a brother in some of the like Korean mythology descendant kind of thing. And so at the end of the first book, spoilers, she sacrifices herself. And then basically the cliffhanger was like, I'm going to find you another life. So we get to the God in the Gwisin, which is like a spirit. Again, Korean mythology and fates thread, how in Korean mythology it's like a red thread that binds you to your soulmate, basically. And so what happens is that in this book, the main characters end up having the red threads tying each other to each other, and the god is thinking like, oh shit, hell yeah, this is my girl. I've been waiting for her for over 30 years. 30 years have passed since the first book and this book. And he's like, yes, she finally found me. It's gonna be so great. And come to find out that the red thread binded him to somebody who is dead and like working on a cruise ship that was sailing down the river to like to the afterlife basically. And it is not honey. The honey was the kumyo. But it's not honey like reincarnated. It is pieces of honey's soul basically, but it's not like a one for one, like it's basically reincarnation, but like this new reincarnated version of honey does not know who the fuck the god is, and so it is like, oh, I see that he's my soulmate, but I don't know this guy, and so it's those kinds of hijinks, but also solving a murder like that happened on the ship. So you start to try to figure out who on the ship could have done this, and I really liked it. I did end up giving this a 4 out of 5. I didn't think it had the same pizzazz as like the first one, but it was a good follow-up. It did not really fall into the sophomore syndrome of the series. And Sophie Kim has done a lot of other books. This is not by means her second book, but in the series, usually the sophomore curse is that the second one isn't as good. I'd say if this was the God in the Kumyo, like this is where the God in the Gwisin is. So it was really, really close, but it wasn't a 5-star read for me. The fourth book is War is a Racket by Smedley Butler. So this actually came about, and I've been waiting for this book for months. My old office had some bubbas in it that were like, you should read this. And it's only 43 minutes, which was insane. It was good in the fact that it just riles you up. It's talking about how the government purchases contracts, and those contracts basically give a profit, and it's not really about the soldiers. It's literally just making money in this war, and talking about like, oh, like this company only produces a set of wrenches, but there's only one bolt that it goes to, and so it's like, why would you purchase a billion or like couple 100,000 of these units when you don't really need to? So that was really about the entire book, and it would give examples, but it wouldn't really go in depth, which makes sense probably because they probably would get sued for libel or defamation or whatever. So it was like very vague. I mean, again, there were examples, but it wasn't like, oh, this person did this person to this person. There was a little of that, but I think I wanted more. I think I just wanted more of the book, to be honest. Again, it was only 43 minutes, and that was its total runtime as like reading it as normal speed. So it was really short if you were listening to it above 1% speed. But yeah, I ended up giving this a 3. It wasn't like as informative as I wanted it to be, but it definitely made you think, and thus middle of the road. I had to give it a 3. It just pissed me off because what he's saying isn't untrue. As somebody who is in the government, I see some of this. It's fraud, waste, and abuse. And it's like, oh, I wonder why we're going with this contractor when we should probably go with something else. I can just see it, you know? It's really sad. Gave it a 3. Oh, next is the Crescent Moon Tearoom. This is also a series. This is Spellbound Sisters 1. I am very close to being able to read the second one from Libby. But this is by Stacy Sivinski. This was so freaking cute. It was just such a good read. It's about sisters who own like this magical tea room. Again, Crescent Moon Tea Room, that's what it's called. And they're basically like witches who run this, again, tea room, and people, the witches of Chicago, come in and like get their tea leaves read, and like it's very, very cute. But then again, there's 3 sisters, and they've always been together, and like there's this weird ass prophecy. They get tested as sisters from like the main coven of Chicago. And the sisters start to realize that they are their own individual people. They've always seen themselves as a unit, but like one of them likes to be like more acrobatic, so like a circus. One is really good at writing, and so it's like she wants to pursue that, and the other one is trying to not use her powers because she doesn't want to not be with her sisters. So it was just a really good story about sisterhood and how wanting to find your own way does not mean that you have to stop being a family. Like you can still be a family and each have your own things that like you're really good at. I ended up texting my own coven chat of my two other best friends, and being like, this is like about us. Is this play about us? Yes, because like we are really close, but it's okay that we live in different locations and we have these different priorities. We can still always be a family unit. And I thought that was really, really good. I loved it. So I can't really wait to see where it goes in the second book. I rated that as a 4.5. A 4.5 because it was so close to being a 5, but the ending again, it got me. I was like, this is like there was just something missing. And I hope maybe it gets resolved in the second one. Who's to say? But it was really, really good. Give that book a chance if you see it. The sixth book I read was Raised by a Serial Killer by April Balascio. I didn't know of this serial killer, to be honest. It's not... That sounds so bad to say that like that. It's not a household serial killer name. This guy was Ed Edwards. He ended up killing a lot of different people, but it was just crazy how he did it. Like looking back, you can connect all the things and being like, oh, yeah, that guy was gonna get caught for sure. He's being shady as shit, being like, I hope they don't look for him in a field. Who would say that? The killer would say that. But it's basically April reflecting back on her life growing up with Ed Edwards as her father and seeing how she kind of like pieced it together. Like after a while, she's like, wait a minute, I think some of these cold cases happened like in towns that I grew up in because she like her family was very nomadic. Like they moved around a lot. They moved in an RV. Like she didn't really have strong ties to a location. She went from like Ohio to Florida, and like they were just moving a lot. So obviously that makes it easier for the dad who's a serial killer to serially kill. And it was really just April coming to terms with that and like going through her life. I thought it was very interesting. I ended up giving that a 4. It was written well and it was interesting. I mean, yeah, that's really all I have to say about that. Dude, this next book was a mindfuck. Yesteryear by Caro Claire Burke. So this hit like the Bookstagram book talk scene a couple months ago, and I've been waiting for forever to read it. Just because everybody else has wanted to read it. It came out as a book of the month, so for a while there, it was everywhere. I saw it on planes, airports, trains, like just people walking around. And it definitely had FOMO. I was like, what is this book? And then to come find out that Anne Hathaway wants to make this a film and star in it, I'm like, dude, it's gonna be so good. It reminds me a lot of The House of My Mother, A Daughter's Quest for Freedom by Sherry Frankie. Yesteryear is a lot like that. Honestly, it made me feel a lot of different types of ways, which is like really good and what you want from a book. Something that's going to make it memorable. It's something, whether you believe in it or don't believe in it, that you are able to have a conversation about it. And so that's absolutely what this book was. It is about a girl who ends up like getting out of like her small town. She ends up going to Harvard, and at Harvard she realizes that like she grew up very like sheltered, religious, that kind of stuff. And so when she went to Harvard, she thought she would be like among the intellectuals. And so she starts to have like this complex there of that she believes she's better than like the other girls in her class, of the fact that like she doesn't believe in the whole like not women should have like equal rights, but she definitely believes more in like the traditional wifely roles, and that like everybody else is complaining, and so she sees herself above that. She's like, I'm better than you, and she ends up creating like this false narrative of one of her ex-roommates, I think it was, and like she's always like comparing herself to that roommate of like, oh, because she ends up dropping out of Harvard to go do the traditional wife kind of duty. She goes, settles, has a family, that kind of stuff. And you can tell, you can't honestly, it's such a fine line, which is again so interesting, is that she's on that fine line of like believing she's better than everybody, but also like almost believing in her own hype and like it's just so strange. She's like, yeah, that other lady's going to Harvard, gonna have like a basic salary. She's doing this. Meanwhile, I have a husband and I'm gonna have a baby and I have the better life. So she's like almost like justifying it a little bit. It's just so fascinating. And then she ends up becoming like this big time influencer, um, and on this farm. And she basically creates herself as this like media mogul in a way, again, like well, not head influencer, because there's always like more than that, but she becomes basically like an influencer almost overnight. And it comes from her husband listening to this one podcaster guy who's kind of like a Joe Rogan almost, or like a Theo Von. Is like, this girl believes in traditional values and that's how it's gonna go. She's gonna save our country. She believes in God, and like again, like all this stuff that is very much, I guess like conservative. I don't know what to say about that, but it is very much like one vein, and then she kind of leans into that a little bit, and basically finds herself in influencer fame. And then like a lot of stuff happens. There's a switch at like 75% of the book. I'm not gonna spoil that because everybody needs to experience that on their own. Again, I feel mind fogged after reading that, getting to the end. I'm like, so what is happening? I finished that late at night and I was like, I need somebody who's read this so we can talk about it, because god damn. Honestly, go read that. I rated that as a 4, even though it made me feel all those things. I think the 4 came from like not getting clear closure at the end of the book. Like, I'm just still so mind fucked, and of course I borrowed it as an audiobook, so I don't have it, and so I can't go back and like reread it. I think I might actually have to buy it so I can go back and reread the end to just form my own opinions and like figure out what I think happened at the end. It was wild. I can't wait to see how this plays out on the big screen. Anne Hathaway's gonna fucking kill it. That's all I gotta say about that. If you haven't seen her in the Odyssey, just go do that. Go do that. Hands down. We stand the Queen of Genovia in this household. Okay. The 8th book I read was Scandal of the Summer by Alexandra Vasti. So I think what's really fun about Goodreads is that they have these reading challenges, and these reading challenges are not just like how many books are you going to read in a year, but it also gives you different types of books. And so that's how I like branch out, is basically like trying to complete these challenges. So their summer challenge right now, they have like page turner, like read 3 books, speed reader, read 5 books or something like that. But then they also have these categories like challenge favorites, chart toppers, and Scandal of the Summer came from literally summer, which was read any of these books between this and this date that has the word summer in it. And so that was on there, and it fit all the like the things that I want to read anyway. I just didn't know about this book. So it's called Scandal of the Summer, and it is the first one in a series that she has not like finished. So this is like the first one. This is brand new. She wants to have a series. And I really, really liked it. I will say, it did get very sexy once the main characters were like, oh, we like each other. And that it didn't like come out of nowhere. You knew it was going to happen, but like the descriptions. And I read a lot of smut, all right? Love smut. Honestly, that's another topic for another conversation. Sarah and I have talked about smut. I'll probably see if I can find an episode here where we talk about it in almost every episode anyway of EBTV. But smut is so good. I love it. It's fabulous. What I did not like about this smut, there's certain words, people get concerned about. Moist. Sorry, I said it. The one that I don't like in smut is areola. I don't like it. It's such a dumb word. Maybe it's just because of how fast I was listening to it, and the way it was said with like an accent, it sounded like areola, and I'm like, just say it. It's areola, not areola. Like, it was just, it's Wingardium Leviosa, not Leviosa. Like, it was just that kind of thing. And I was like, if they talk about areolas one more time, I'm gonna fucking lose it. They did. I didn't lose it, but I was really upset. But basically, the summary of Scandal of the Summer is that these basically wallflowers in like a Regency type era are like kind of fed up. They're not like other girls, but in a good way. There's some that's in a bad way, but they're just tired of just being looked down upon because they don't have husbands. So they're like, fuck it, we're gonna go live in the princess's summer house because she's never there. Anyway, so they go out and then they realize that the staff there is not like the normal staff. And so you find out like the head of the staff at this summer home is a basically like swashbuckling con man. And they finally realize that they're both lying about why they're there. I mean, he is a manager of the house, but it was like it's very nuanced and like he was the only one supposed to be there. Like they weren't good. Like they would tell him like well in advance before like the princess was coming or whatever, and then they clean up the house and all that stuff, but like not to run like a household staff. He has his own little band of followers, and so he employs them, and they're using this house as basically like a smuggler's cove type thing. So it's like illegal silks, illegal wine, like just a storage house. And so these ladies get there and they're like, they're doing the Spider-Man meme of like, but they ended up like helping clean the house and like just basically living there without the expectations of like the Regency era. And then the main characters fall in love and it's beautiful, and then there becomes like a whodunit, and it was just really really good. I really really enjoyed it. I also give that a 4. Again, I can really love a book and still give it a 4 because it didn't have that punch, that wow factor. But yeah, I thought it was fabulous. It was a hoot. Just again, be ready to hear Areola a bunch in the second half of the book. Okay, and the last book we'll talk about today is The Rebel Romanov by Helen Rappaport. This was about Julie Coburg Sachs. Is that how I say it? Let me look that up. Oh, Sachs Coburg. I got them mixed up. Um, the full name is The Rebel Romanov, Julie of Saxe Coburg, the Empress Russia Never Had. So it was honestly quite crazy. So like her mom is basically like a big schemer and like schemed for her and her sisters to like go get married into like the Russian, like the Romanov like prince like dynasty, right? The Tsardom, if you will. And um and it worked. Shocking. But then she marries Constantine, who is an asshole, and she basically tries everything to get out of like Russia. So she starts to like live. I don't think she ever made it to England, or maybe she did for a little bit, but then she ends up like in Belgium, for a little bit in Bohème, and God, where was she? Brussels, maybe? But basically, she tries to, like, oh, I'm sick. I can't be traveling a bunch. I need to live where the doctors are. I'm gonna go live in Switzerland. Basically, I'm just gonna leave. And then when she's, like, left, she's like, so can we get that divorce? And, like, the Russian Orthodox church was like, not yet. Not yet. I'm gonna put you on red. Basically, like ghosts her for years and years and years, and then finally manages to like get the divorce. So she's like living, and she doesn't like the attention, so she's very quiet and stuff. Sorry, I am covered in cat and dog hair. Anyway, um, um, but like her mom is still scheming. Like she ended up getting like one of her daughters, Victory, to be in like the English nobility. She ends up having the daughter Victoria, that Victoria, and then somebody else has it's not Philip. Albert? Yeah, Victoria and Albert. Ends up having Albert, and like she arranges it, like they're both like cousins, and like she's like the mastermind of like how the nobility in Europe happened. It was fucking nuts. Like she was just related to everybody, and she was like, oh yeah, Antoinette's mom, blah 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 blah, and then young Antoinette. I'm like, is that fucking Marie Antoinette? Sure fucking was. Like one of her sons became Leo, like Leo of Belgium, who like ruined the Congo, that Leopold. Like, I was like, this lady is insanely influential. it was just so crazy to hear. And then like you hear, of course, like the Tsar Nicholas II, and you're like, oh, Anastasia. They didn't talk about that, sadly, but I did again talk about like Julie's life, and she has a lot of loss in her life. So she's not only sick, like she actually ended up being actually sick, not that it's cool. She ended up actually being sick. But she's experienced sickness, a lot of death in her families, and she hasn't really had a happy marriage. And so it's about like her ups and downs in her life. Unfortunately, they were mostly downs. But yeah, it was just such an interesting book to be like, I feel like Charlie Day right now, like connecting everything and being like, it's all interconnected, man. That was a mindfuck. So yeah, let's finish up on what I'm reading now. I'm still chugging along on two of them. My physical and my Kindle book. My physical book, I'm so close to being done. I'm actually going to try to finish that very soon. Maybe today, hopefully. And that's the Apothecary Diaries #3. We're coming up on my favorite scenes. The frog scene, if you know, you know. And then I'm still reading the Battle Beyond the Veil by Cassie Sanchez in my Kindle book. I haven't had much time to do on my Kindle because I have been doing an arts and crafts project for one of my former coworkers. He's a big Buffalo Bills fan, so I have been bedazzling and sewing sequins on a Josh Allen jersey. And so what better way to listen to like have interactions with books than audiobooks while my hands are busy. So that has been taking me basically until bedtime. And once I'm in bed, I'm like, I have to sleep because I'm so tired. So I haven't been able to get into my Kindle as much. So that's bad on me. But what I'm listening to now, which is really interesting, I'm listening to it via Spotify, which is my first time borrowing an audiobook from Spotify. And it's called The Romance Rivalry by Susan Lee. Susan Lee has done Soulmates, and I think she did a couple other like Korean like romance books, and obviously that's a huge part of my life right now. I'm obsessed. But when she started off on Romance Rivalry, I was like, oh my God, this girl, I see myself in this girl. She's like, yeah, I like to read a lot of books. And she ends up like one of the first scenes is like her going to like her senior prom or whatever, and she has no interest in it. So she pulls out a book, and they describe the cover of the book, and I go, oh, that's Ice Planet Barbarians. I think that's the second one. I think that's Liz's book, if not the third book. She's like a red-haired lady and a big blonde blue or a big blue alien. I'm like, that's Ice Planet Barbarians, obviously. And I'm like, oh my God, how do I do? But anyway, I am so far in love with this book. I can't wait to talk about it next week. For sure, for sure. I will say I will not be having this many books next week because I actually have my first real week of work. So we won't have 9 books to talk about. We'll just probably have like 3. So it'll be a lot shorter this time. But yeah, that's what I've got. Again, let me know what books you're reading. I'd be happy to talk to you and have a good conversation. If you've read Yesteryear, please, please DM me. I need somebody to talk about it with. Okay. Well, again, follow us, EBTB, Everything But the Book, on our Instagram. And stay tuned for more Lowdown with Lyss, week 3. Bye!